This is Moments of Truth, the webcast with and for customer success professionals. I'm your host, Andrew Marks, co-founder of Success Hacker. And today I'm joined by Jeff Justice, Senior Director of Enterprise Customer Success at Box. Jeff is a SaaS technology leader with nearly 20 years of professional experience, a native of DC and longtime resident of New York City prior to his current role at Box. He served as the VP of Customer Success and Support at Stack Overflow, where he oversaw multiple product lines and the full customer program. In addition to other prior leadership roles, he most recently led WeWork's enterprise technology and customer success teams in the US and EMEA, and also spent 4 years as the head of Dropbox's customer success team, serving as the New York City site lead as well. In addition to his professional work, Jeff is prepping the launch of his new podcast, Sips of Success, in which he sits with notable guests from varied backgrounds, holds conversations over unique beverages, and brings to life their experiences, accomplishments, and challenges over their career. He's an avid traveler, and he has lived, studied, and worked on 3 continents while visiting nearly 80 countries and counting. Jeff, welcome to the program, and thanks for making time for me today.
Thank you. Thank you. You remind me that I'm very excited to at some point start counting towards the 90s of the countries. It's exciting to get back into the airplanes.
Yeah, everybody's kind of getting back into the swing of things post COVID. I
Yeah.
was talking to somebody today about that. They were just attended their first conference, and there were thousands of
Oh,
people there. I think they're just jonesing to get back out there.
oh
Um,
yeah.
and by the way, I'm a Lagavulin drinker, so whenever you're ready to have me on your podcast,
Yes.
I've got plenty of it. So
I do love a good goblet. Yes, yes, yes. That is a great drink that a good CS friend of mine introduced me to, and I haven't turned back.
Yeah, the 16 year is phenomenal, but I actually
So
came
good.
across I came across a bottle of 25 year, which was mind
Really?
blowing. Yeah, I'd never seen it before. Uh,
Wow.
and
I have
uh,
not either.
I was in a bar in Portland, and I saw it at the top of the shelf, and I asked the bartender, "What's that? That looks like Lagavulin." And she said, "That is. Let me go grab it." And she pulls it down. And it's a 25 year, hadn't been opened. There was dust on it.
Woo.
Like, oh, pour me a glass of that. I gotta
Yes.
try that. That was nice. It was not cheap, but it was
Oh,
nice. Yeah.
that's one of those, if you get lucky and you have a bartender that doesn't know enough, they charge you the 16-year-old price.
Yeah. Yeah. No. She charged me the 25-year-old price.
Yeah,
But it was okay. It was a drink with a good friend slash
awesome,
colleague of mine. So well
awesome.
worth the investment. So when you and I were prepping for this, one of the things we talked about, and I like to kind of dig deeper into this topic because we get caught right in the middle of this constantly. And there's a lot of people out there looking for work, looking for
Sure.
jobs in customer success,
Yep.
and we see a lot of them coming through our success coaching program. This concept of being honest about your background and experience in order to get where you want to go.
Yeah. And it's an interesting time, right? So many people are questing for new opportunities, new roles, new jobs, new ways of feeling purposeful in their work. And CS right now is an interesting space where it allows for so much of someone's background to apply to the customer facing role. But people are chasing the function from all angles. And if you think about how often people flail about trying to get CS as a function to fit correctly into their company process or along their customer journey, and how sometimes that can turn into failure for both the company and CS. Um, it ends up what I was talking to a group of CS execs, and we call that failure. Where you see that there was an awkwardly run attempt to be successful at like operating a customer success org, but then without the direction, the knowledge, or the right people, the CEO or the execs get upset when that failure to launch happens, and then guess what? They get upset at CS. So it's a very, very interesting space right now where you find that people are recognizing that there's an opportunity, and at the same time, it's still a space that is relatively unknown to some companies of certain sizes or certain dynamics within the tech space. So it's a very interesting time for CS.
Well, they hear this concept of customer success. They read about it. They're members of the board and mention it,
Yep.
but they truly don't understand that it's a different motion than sales. It's a different
Right.
motion than account management. It's a different mindset. And so you've got these senior executives that are saying, "Hey, we need customer success," but they don't really understand
Hmm.
what it is and how it's going to affect their organization, or how to build something that has an effect on the organization. The other thing that I've also found is that having a customer success team that's doing the right thing um, can expose some of the warts
Yes.
that you have with your product, and you need to be okay with that.
Yep. Yep. In fact, if you're building a customer success team, that's what you want to unearth from those customer conversations. But it all starts with from the top, right? As an example, I've seen companies slot in someone from CS to sit in or someone to sit in a CS leadership role
Right.
simply to fill the space, and
Right.
they bring that person from whatever they consider to be an adjacent role, a moderately performing sales IC, an independent contributor, a business development representative manager, and I've seen an executive assistant to a sales leader get put into this spot. The thought is, a customer is a customer wherever they are on the journey, so anyone can do this as long as they just think about the customer and address their requests. And then what happens from there is that CS churn numbers are missed, customers unexpectedly churn themselves, and through it all, trust in what CS can do and putting like an actual process together gets lost. Putting bodies next to the existing customer experience dilutes what CS does,
Yeah.
and even the interpretation of how the function impacts the bottom line of a company's goals that gets devalued. There are many flavors to how I've seen that take place, and how that looks in different companies based on the product and their place in their journey, whatever stage that they are. But no matter what, just throwing bodies at the existing customer group, whether that's in leadership or individual contributors, it's not the right approach.
So I can't just take my account management team and change their titles to customer success and be good.
What's really funny? This is the moment of truth, right?
Yeah.
I've caught people who were account managers, who were BDRs, who were in these other roles, who simply replaced their title header with customer success as their title because it's a phrase and a role that's hot right now. And there's the perception that just about anyone can fill in the role. And as you mentioned, that's not the case, right? There is a methodology around this. It is much less the craft that it was in the early 2000s. There's disciplines around it. There's programs, learning programs around it. There's knowledge around it. But I do say that with two lenses. There is the lens of the falsified resumes that are happening. People probably don't, and actually I spoke to a couple of people about this who, I very tenderly talked to them about the fact that they massaged their resume, and they didn't think that it was, falsifying, so to speak, but it is. Um, there is that aspect of it, but then there's also the acknowledgement on the positive side that CS is a role that you can apply many skills to be successful. You don't need just need to you just don't need to lie to get into the door. It's a great transition from or to customer facing roles. It's a great transition to product roles, marketing, operations, etc. But it's also concerning when you have people who are in CS leadership roles who don't have the background in CS, or who haven't done the recent studies to understand the discipline of applying that to a business process, who then don't know how to discern who is sending in a falsified or modified or scrubbed out resume. These are things that you can learn through good practice, through understanding the dynamics of a customer success program. But if you don't have the right leadership in place, these people slip right in, and the next thing you know, you're still wondering what the residual effect is still there. You hire someone who isn't versed in CS, they potentially hire someone who is not versed in CS as well, but dressed to look like it on paper. And the house that you built this on, the foundation, you realize you have to knock it down and start from scratch, which I've seen a lot of flailing startups do. You know, it's an interesting process to watch. Series B to Series C, I see it all the time.
Oh yeah, and that's a big leap there, and that's where that
Hmm.
stuff gets exposed. And yeah, if there are a lot of people who are falsifying resumes who are trying to get into customer success. I think though there's two sides of this. You shouldn't be falsifying your resume.
Yep.
You should be creating a narrative that
Yep.
talks to your customer facing skills, that talks to your organizational skills, your ability to empathize, your ability to listen actively, to manage things, to be organized, some of those key attributes, those skills that are super important for this role. But at the same time, I also have seen, and I personally experienced this because, we when we got started, we built our whole coaching and training business on the back of consulting and recruiting.
Hmm.
So I lived this as a recruiter,
Hmm.
that I would walk into companies and they don't even understand
Yep.
what customer success really is. So therefore, they don't know what they're looking for. Because if
Yep.
they did, I mean, I remember one guy, even prior to starting the company, when I was looking for a new role, I had one recruiter come out to reach out to me, and I had actually built customer success. I'm
Yeah.
one of the earliest customer success teams outside of Salesforce. I actually built that team.
Yep.
Okay. And this guy reached out to me and said, well, we're looking for somebody with, 10 years of experience in customer success. And this was, 8 years after I had built that team. And I said, you are then the only place you should be looking is Salesforce, because
Yeah.
there's nobody
Yeah.
that has that amount, there's nobody out there that has 10 years of experience, because it
Yeah.
didn't exist
Yeah.
outside of Salesforce. But so I think that there's a, and does not in any way justify people falsifying their resume, but there's still a problem with people really grokking, what am I looking for, what
Yeah.
do I need, what makes a good CSM.
Yeah. You know, we're not too far away from the origin story of CS as well. So it's not as if we've seen multiple iterations of this where you can go back and you can find, I mean, there are people who, like me, have been in CS for more than a decade. I don't want to age myself here, but just more the years than others. And so, you know, it's not as if I actually saw someone have on their resume that they were in customer success. I want to say they dated it back to the 1990s. And I said, you know,
It's bullshit.
yeah,
I would just be like, oh, you're full of crap, because it
yeah,
didn't exist,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And I understand that there was a concept of theory, but he or she was really trying to place it as in like
Yeah.
I have been in customer success since the '90s, and you know I don't expect my recruiters. To your point, I don't expect my recruiters to be able to flag that all the time. You know,
Yep.
there's a lot of them are still coming to understand and learn what it means to have good customer success. They're hiring in their first hiring rounds of like this is what it means to pursue customer success talent and find them into or see them into the role and actually watch them do well. So I don't expect that of my recruiting team, but I do expect it of the leaders if they're going to be aware and start building teams around this.
Yeah, of course, of course. I actually don't put any blame on the HR recruiters. It has got to be one of the hardest
Yeah,
roles to hire for.
yeah,
Because when you think about it, I could have somebody that has no customer success on their resume, but they have all the soft skills. They
mm-hmm.
have the customer facing skills,
Yeah,
and we could go ahead and teach them the domain, and as of customer success, as well as the domain of the customers that we're serving. I can teach them
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
can teach them the technical skills, and but as an HR person, I'm going, okay, this person has no customer success,
yeah,
or they have if they do have customer success experience, they have no domain expertise. Well, I can teach them the domain expertise.
yeah, yeah,
And I face this multiple times. I or they have just domain expertise
Yeah.
and they don't have any customer success.
Yeah.
Those people can be incredibly valuable. But
Yeah.
looking at HR's looking at, or recruiters looking at, it and going, this person
Not there.
was a director of finance. Why would they be? I actually have a story of a guy that I helped get a customer success role. Wanted to get out of finance. He was a director of finance, had done it for years,
Hmm.
and happened to I just so happened to be working with a company that was doing a budgeting, forecasting, and planning SaaS solution, and
There you go.
I introduced him, and they first pushed back, and they said he's got no customer success experience. I said,
Right.
yeah, but look at his domain experience. He's actually
Yeah.
implemented your software before,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so after a lot of pushing and cajoling, they finally agreed to an interview. And I told him this story as we were going through this process, and he was a little skeptical.
Hmm.
But I said, dude, just go in there and knock their socks off with your domain expertise.
Hmm.
And I said, I guarantee in a year you're going to have your boss's job.
Yeah.
Well, they hired him, and a year later, he sends me this in-mail on LinkedIn. He's like, you know what? You nailed it almost to the date. I just took over. I just got promoted to my boss's job. I have the largest enterprise accounts in the company. I have 3 CSMs working for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
He had no customer success experience. He had no customer success on his resume.
Hmm. And you can develop the lens. I mean, it's a teachable skill. There are things that you can go, courses you can take. Obviously, it's success factor is a huge part of this, and you know you can take those learnable, teachable programs and build upon what they come in as their foundational skills.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing that I found recruiters have a hard time with is when you have ICs that expect that because they were senior CSMs at a small 40-person company, that they should carry over that title into a couple thousand more company, a company that's, you know, not, it's public or a company that's later
Yeah.
stage. And, you know, I've seen people miss out on the opportunities to learn and grow at scale because they wanted to chase the title to keep the senior in their
Yeah.
name. And it's unfortunate, but I've seen it happen a number of times. Um, and that's not just at the independent contributor level. That's at the leadership level as well. You know, like you have the one that we all love. I love my CS executive network. We talk about it all the time. People getting the head of CS role, but they're really still a mid-level IC in skill. You know,
Yeah.
they're the first hire of customer success, and then they expect after they leave that head of CS role, they expect to go to another company and just blow it out the park, and they haven't yet learned all the foundational skills. Um, so it's definitely something that's a commonality right now.
Yeah. Head of CS, player coach, you build up a 5 to 10 person team around you over a year or two. I'm sorry, you're not in a, you know, in a small company. You
Yeah,
are not going to go to a mid-size or a larger enterprise company
yep,
and land a job
yep,
as a VP of customer success.
yep,
You'll be, you know, if you're lucky, you can get in at a director level,
yep,
right? But you've got so much more to learn, you
yeah,
know. But there is this almost this expectation that they have that
correct.
you know, and you need some war wounds,
Hmm.
right? And 2 years in a small company building something from scratch is not enough war wounds.
Yeah, I know it's hard to take that time and to invest in learning something. But you know, when you know now I'm in the process of taking product courses, right? And the product courses that I'm taking are with the intention of the fact that I'm building that upon my CS experience and my CS knowledge and the CS courses I've taken and the things I've learned. And you can, from customer success as your hub, you can spoke out to any number of categories and
Yep.
areas. And the more you know about that hub, the further you can go in any of those other areas that you want to explore. So it's worth it.
Well, and you know, I just posted something last week on this on the whole hub and spoke, or maybe it was this week. I'm losing track of all the content we produce. But this whole hub and
Good
spoke
problem.
model of of customer success itself,
Mhm.
right? We are the connection to the customer, but we are
Mhm.
also the connection to the engineering team and the product team and to the sales team and to the marketing team and to the legal and the finance team. We literally, our customer success literally is the hub. This is one of the things that makes
Yep.
can make hiring challenging too, because it's an incredibly unique role in a company where you are talking and communicating and collaborating with nearly everyone.
Yep. 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 And I've motioned people from operations roles to product product roles, and then I've motioned people from customer success roles to product marketing. I've
Yeah.
motioned them from support into customer success, and people into actual marketing roles.
Yeah.
And they've gone in all directions. And of course, people who have gone upward in their careers and who are VPs or senior leaders or CCOs at certain companies who they have actually gone through the right steps to learn and
Yeah.
establish like where they have interest, and part of that was that they have an understanding of the landscape that they want to pursue. They understand what the job is that they want to look for, and I've developed a template that a lot of my professional network has decided to adopt, and I really adopt this. You never get anything original, right? I really adopt this from another really great customer success peer, but it's a 4 quadrant box that helps you to see what the role is that you're looking at. What does that day to day look like? Especially in these days when we're remote or we're going to be hybrid. Then you think about what the product looks like, and then you think about what the culture looks like. And you can swap those out for whatever is important for you, but they have the lens of what does it mean to work at this company, and then stoplight it, red, yellow, green. Within those categories, what are the things that matter to me? And I have 9 different categories in my boxes. And I say, is it important to have culture and have a social office? Yes, that's important. Soft thing, but it's actually important to me. I realize that, especially now that
Right.
I'm going back into the office. It's actually very important to me. From a role perspective, is my access to decision making, is that something that's part of the role that's important to me? Red, yellow, green. How does it exist in the dynamic? And as I go through the process, and as my peers have gone through the process and use this rubric, this assessment, to say whether a company is good for me or not, they know what they're landing on when they get there. And if they're seeing a lot of red, or if they're seeing there's a good amount of yellow, like what can they do to motion that towards green? What do they need to motivate? Or if there's a lot of green, then what's going to keep you happy and what's going to keep you engaged, and where can you think of that as your next career step? That's been really helpful to me. So it's yeah. I have to thank Elizabeth Sway who gave that to me. She was the first person who passed that in my direction, and it's just traveling gangbusters ever since.
Yeah. Awesome. Can you'll share that with me, and I can
Yeah.
post a link on
Yep.
the MOT.
Yep.
And when I'm editing this thing, I'll fade in the picture
Yeah.
once the template, so people can also see what we're talking about,
Yeah.
or
It's
download it.
also it's also in the, I think I linked it in our Google
Yeah,
Doc thing.
you didn't give me access to it, so
Oh, there it
yeah,
is.
it's I don't have access to the file, so
There
no,
you
but
go.
that's great. I mean, you need to getting a job in customer success, and we actually have a whole section on our website at successcoaching.co about getting a job in customer success. You need to be organized. You need to be you need to be deliberate about this. Right? Spray and pray
Yes.
isn't going to help you. You really, I was just talking to a former colleague of mine, a multiple, very entrepreneur, multiple CEO, talking to him earlier today about his son, who is looking at getting into customer success. And he said, well, he's been in, he's ever since he got out of college, he's been in food service. He's been in
Mm.
hospitality. And I said, well, you know what? There's a lot of people from hospitality that get into customer success and do just fine. It's a matter of how you get in.
Yep.
It's a matter of where you go. How can you parlay what you know and your skills
Yep.
into something that makes sense? And in his case, my suggestion was that he look at, um, besides going through a certification course, which he was going to recommend to his son, um, getting going after companies like Toast, for example,
Mhm.
that make food service POS. So that
Mhm.
so that you've got this person who walks in the door and says, "Hey, I'm certified, and by the way, I spent 8 years in food service, so I talk the talk. I have the domain expertise."
Yep.
You can totally parlay that. But if you're just kind of spraying and praying all over the place, of course you're gonna have challenges getting interviews.
Yep. Yep. I've had CSMs who were bartenders who then went through, a CS course and understood the aspect of I really get relationships,
Yeah,
but I'm not doing this as just a flighty. I'm serving a drink. Like this is a technology program like like sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they initially came to me and they said, "Can I come in as straight from bartender?" I said, "You got to do the work, and
yeah,
you have to understand what this
yeah.
role is really about." And I've seen them go from that role to office assistants to like anybody can come in if you're willing to do just the basic
Exactly,
work to understand the foundation for sure.
exactly, exactly. We actually have we had a bartender went through our program very early, uh, many years ago. Went through our program and is now a director of customer success.
There
Right.
you
So
go.
if you, to your point, if you I was just telling my daughter this the other day, my 12-year-old, like, if you have a desire to achieve what you want to achieve,
Hmm.
and you put the effort in, there's really nothing stopping you, right? It's just a matter of you've really got to you got to be willing to sign up for the effort that's required.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. Yeah.
put your mind to it.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I am very excited to see what's going to happen with customer success in this year, in particular, considering a lot of people are coming back out of remote living, are starting to engage customers a little bit more, are starting to think about what does it mean to really find use for technology within the tech stack for a customer. It definitely tramped up another level over the last 2 years. And so I'm seeing that attention to detail and, like you said, the project management aspect of this as people are starting to validate, does this technology that I'm investing in fit with my company profile and what we're trying to accomplish as we're moving back and have other priorities. It's going to be really interesting to get CS put to the test during this time.
Yeah. Well, what I love about the technology that has been definitely put to the test, especially this type of technology, the telepresence, has been definitely put to the test over the last
Oh yeah.
couple of years. Is between that and some of the RPA stuff and
Hmm.
the AI
Hmm.
that can be used. I just did a webinar today about infusing empathy into automation, right?
Interesting.
Things like automation systems and AI, not to replace customer success managers, but to supplement them, to provide them with the 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 support
Hmm.
uh, to make the repetitive stuff happen automatically, so that customer success managers can spend their time more focused on those strategic conversations with their customers.
Yep.
And those can happen via telepresence. They don't have to always be in somebody's office sitting across a table from them. I very much believe that you should have some FaceTime, literally
Yeah.
in the same room FaceTime with folks, but there's a lot of customer success stuff that can be done, and we can be even more effective doing things virtually as well.
Yep. I was sitting in we had a virtual roundtable with a few CS leaders, and one of them said, my scale program is new and is evolving. Like we have this digital touch that's awesome for scale, but like there's no way I can bake that into my high touch program. And I challenged immediately. I said, actually, what's good for scale is actually really good for the high touch as well, because you get to release the high touch to do more deep engagement
Yeah.
because the low touch activities within the high touch realm get taken care of by automation. And it's a really, with ML, AI, all the things that are coming into the CS space this day, owning that as a part of your customer journey, as a part of the experience that you're providing for the customer, and applying that at all segments of the business is it's a turnkey. But just as long as people are aware that that's an option, that scaled doesn't just mean that you set it and forget it, that high touch doesn't just mean dinners and
Yeah.
relationships,
Yeah.
that there is a way to blend the two, because you can take things from high touch and put them into scaled as well, for your upper tier. Like those two play really, really well together. You don't have to choose either or.
Very much so. If I have a high touch model and I'm
Yep.
spending 90 minutes with my customer training them on the product, but 60 of those minutes is generic, exact same script every time. Why can't I have
Yep.
that 60-minute
Yep.
as a video lesson that they consume before we meet, and then we're only spending 30 minutes talking about the differences between what's in
Yep.
that video and how it affects them and the what's in it for them. That saves up 2/3 of the time that I normally would spend with that customer to either spend it on other more strategic things with that
Right.
customer or other customers, right? So
Yep.
I agree with, there's no reason why you can't use scale strategies in high touch models.
Yep. And there's some really great platforms out there that are doing just that. They're allowing you to interact, and they're using I was about to say emojis. They're using a virtual, virtual presence for people to
Yep.
interact. And yeah, I mean, the space is also wide open there for companies that are emerging and filling in the gaps for what customer success can accomplish for the reach to the bottom line. I'm, if I wish I had more technical skills myself to build some of the things that I have in my mind, but I already see people building them, so it's it's
Yeah.
really encouraging to see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what happens.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Jeff, hey, thanks for spending some time with me. This is great and really
Always, Andrew. Always.
interesting, and always good to see you. And we'll definitely have to do this again. And I'm expecting my an invite to your
Yeah,
podcast at some point.
yeah. Some legal. That means you have to find the 25-year-old.
I'll find it, man. I'll find it.
Excellent, excellent.
All right, Jeff. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Andrew.